Welcome back to Every Naval Battle in History. In today's episode, the Goths try and get cheeky at sea, and the Empire shows it is far from a spent force. Before we get further in, I should note that the title graphic for this episode is a fever dream of the Mid-Journey AI, and not in any particular way historically accurate at all, just like all the other paintings of ancient battles made in more modern times. We need to set the scene here with the Gothic War, 535 to 554. In 533, Emperor Justinian, that's the Eastern Roman Emperor based out of Constantinople, sent one of the best generals in history, Belisarius, to recapture North Africa from the Vandals. This went better than anyone had anticipated, so in 535 they decided to take a crack at the Ostrogoths in Italy. Again, Belisarius was leading the expedition, which always guarantees a good showing. Belisarius started by retaking Sicily, with some toing and froing. The Dalmatian coast, think Croatia, was also returned to Roman control. Belisarius swept north, and Rome, having heard what the army had done in Naples after a siege, opened the gates and let him in. A Greek-speaking Roman army conquering an Italian-speaking Rome, although Belisarius's troops were mostly recruited barbarians to add more spice to the stew. We're just going to gloss over the carnage that devastated Italy as cities were starved out in sieges by both Gothic and Imperial sides, and the Italian people no doubt just wished both sides would fight it out somewhere else. But we do have a new character turning up in 538 in the form of the eunuch Narses. Now, when we think of eunuchs in 2023, we think of a man who's had his genitals cut off in a process that can only have been excruciating and terrifying given the risks of surgery in an era before antibiotics, anesthetics, and germ theory. But it appears while this definitely happened, it was a term also applied to men who didn't want to have sex with women, which could take in what we today think of as the queer community. Anyway, I don't know what Narses was packing under his tunic, and neither does anyone else. His early history is highly contradictory. In 538, he turns up with an imperial army in Italy, but ends up feuding with Belisarius, although it should be noted that on at least a few occasions Narses was right in their arguments. In 539, after some spectacular cock-ups due to the divided and factionalised command in Italy, Narses was recalled, although not in any particular disgrace. It's interesting how the two excellent leaders appear to have fallen out, because in 532 they had worked together closely to slaughter the Nika rioters in the Hippodrome of Constantinople. In 539, Belisarius captured Ravenna by accepting the Goths' offer to proclaim him the Western Emperor. This raised hackles in Constantinople, and Belisarius was recalled and sent to fight the Persians. This, along with the arrival of the Justinian plague and corrupt administration, gave the Goths the breathing space they needed to make a comeback. Under Totila, not to be confused with the Mexican flatbread, they reconquered vast swathes of Italy. Even the return of Belisarius could do little to improve the Imperials' position in the ravaged peninsula. But the Imperials knew what real estate mattered and kept control of the islands and key fortified ports. With their command of the sea, this made them a constant menace to the Goths in Italy. Well, if the Vandals can smash the Empire at sea, how hard can it be for the Goths? Totila built a fleet of 400 ships and set his sights on the port of Ancona. With Narses bringing an army back up the Dalmatian coast and Belisarius still dangerous, the Goths blockaded Ancona with 47 ships while the rest of the fleet was sent raiding Epirus and the Ionian Islands. The experienced Roman general John, based out of the old imperial naval arsenal at Salona, joined up with a force coming out of Ravenna to make a total of 50 ships packed with veterans. The Goths fancied their chances and sailed forth, the two fleets meeting off Sena Gallica. And, as always, inexperience in naval warfare cost one side dearly, in this case the Goths. Poor seamanship saw parts of their force detached and defeated in detail, while other ships were too close together and unable to manoeuvre. The Goths lost 35 ships in the battle, but when survivors made it back to Ancona, they burned their ships to make sure they wouldn't have to go through that trauma again. Narses was able to capitalise on the success, and the blow to Gothic morale allowed a near-complete conquest of Italy, and by 565 the map of Roman possessions looked superficially like a healthy Roman Empire. The cost in terms of money and manpower and the destruction of the major Italian cities had taken a terrible toll and left the Romans unprepared for the challenges of the future, both in terms of the rise of better organised peoples in the west, like the Franks and Lombards, and the big trouble that was stirring in the Arabian Peninsula. There is a popular legend that Belisarius was blinded by the emperor and lived out his days as a street beggar. That's completely untrue. He certainly had no end of political struggles at court, but appears to have died rich and happy in his 60s in Constantinople. Strap in, folks. We've got lots more to cover as we take on every naval battle in history. Smash those like and subscribe buttons, ring that bell. You don't want to get left behind.